So, hey team, it's Dr. Harry Crees here from the Medicine Revived, and we have got a treat for you this week. We've got Kaitlyn Young. Kaitlyn Young, she's an owner of a very thriving and upcoming social media company called Social Media Doctor. And she's also the proud leader of Iconic, which we'll get to in just a little bit as well too. But through her years of struggle and failure, she eventually found a way to conquer self-doubt and find her true purpose and helping others stay in their true selves. I am so excited to have this opportunity to speak with you, Kaitlyn. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be on here today.
Kaitlyn, we've known each other, I guess, for the past several months, and I've been following you on social media for the past several months. And one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation, actually, for you to actually speak to your story to our listeners here, is that you've made really such an incredible turn, an incredible transformation that I've seen really in the handful of months that I've known you. So let's start with that. Let's start a little bit about, tell us a little bit about yourself and then how and what exactly you're doing right now.
Absolutely. So, I was homeschooled growing up my whole life and was a farm girl. And I struggled with self-doubt from the time I was 6 because I had an incident where my brain basically told me after this incident that, no one loved me. And I believed that. My brain believed that. And so for years, I fought that. And then when I turned 22, I decided to take it in my own hands and try to end my life. And after being in a mental institute for 5, 6 weeks, fighting the, urges and stuff, I started putting myself back in there and I was like, wait, I thought I was, not doing that. And then I realized the reason I was putting myself back in is because I knew my story wasn't over yet.
Mhm.
I knew that I had a bigger purpose, which started me getting on track with my mental health, working with psychiatrists and stuff like that, because I was diagnosed with something called borderline personality. And then I, took that, got my mental health stable. Then I went and got gastric sleeve, lost over 100 pounds. And then the next step I took was career. Last year, about this time, I actually had a stroke and lost feeling in my right side of my body. And it made me realize that life is short and I didn't need to wait for my career. I needed to go get it.
Yeah.
So I, took that as a sign from God, go get it, girl. And so I started an insurance agency, which brought me into Apex. And from there, I just kept going, this isn't it, we need to keep moving forward. And I kept searching for that purpose. And once I found it in February, I've kind of gone gun ho. I basically I was at an event, a Stacey Rasky event, and we were doing a breathing exercise. And I was thinking about a conversation that Chris Whitehead and I had. And he had asked me some pretty tough questions, but I wanted the answers. And I realized that I was searching to fill a hole that was already filled, that my purpose was already there. And my purpose was to help others step into their true power, like I had been
Yeah.
doing. And when that clicked, everything started falling into alignment. Like people started reaching out for social media help. And through social media, I'm able to represent people authentically and help them show their true colors, right?
Yeah.
And so it was living in that purpose as well as fulfilling my purpose. And then Chris Whitehead, I was honored to ask to be on his leadership team. So I'm doing that as well. But since then, like you said, the last 2 months, I've become a bestseller author. I've had so many different things, and
Yeah.
it's just been crazy.
No, I'm telling you, Kaitlyn, that's exactly one of the incredible stories that I wanted you to share with us. I appreciate you sharing that with us. For many of us who are in healthcare, which a lot of my listeners are, including myself, we encounter mental health, not only the patients that we serve, Kaitlyn, but and a lot of it in ourselves as well too. And I think really one of the things that I found very, very compelling in your story is your honesty, your raw honesty, because I think for many people in mental health, they really try to not believe it or accept it that it's there. And I guess one of the things that that I would ask is, what was it specifically to you that said, you know what, this is here and this is real, and that I need to seek out that help? Because I think that that message, I think, is probably the most powerful message we can hear.
So for me, I did not seek out the help at first. It was my husband that saw the signs. I was I was basically shut off, you know. And I think it's so important to have that person that is able to see those things in you. Like, you know, whether it's a coworker, whether it's your spouse, whether it's someone that can look out for those signs. Cause if it weren't for Scott, I wouldn't be here. Like I had written the goodbye letters, I'd said goodbye to my
Mm,
whole family.
mm,
You know, it was like planned out. Like he was leaving for work that morning and then I was taking the pills and ending it.
mm,
Like we were that close. Um, he noticed that I was almost too excited because I was in that phase of it's finally over and I was
yeah,
excited to be done with it. I was in that, like, you know, euphoric phase, and he knew that something was severely wrong because that I was just too happy from where I was. And so if he had not noticed that sign, I wouldn't be here for today.
yeah,
Um, so I'm very thankful for that. But the moment that I realized I wanted to live was like the fourth time going into the mental health hospital because, you know, a lot of us fake that we're better to get out of there because we don't want
yeah,
to be there. And I did that multiple times because, you know, you just don't want to be there. And then I realized I was wanting to go back and get help. And
mm,
I take that because I'm a spiritual person that God was pushing me. And he was like, hey, you know, you have a purpose, girl. You need to go back in there and do the work, you know? So as much as I'd love to say it was all me, but it wasn't at all.
yeah. And I think that's incredible to point that out, though, Caitlin, is you had somebody in your corner that you can lean on. I guess the question that I would have is, you know, what are some things that that Scott had said that said, okay, I think let me ask, let me ask the question another little way is, I think a lot of times people who sense that somebody's struggling with something, that I think one of two things happens. Either you don't ask them because you don't want to offend them, perhaps, like, hey, is something going on? But then you also don't want to ask too many questions because you're not sure how to respond because you may not be equipped with those tools, perhaps. So maybe you could offer something. What can somebody say to somebody else? And I'll tell you where this question is coming from, is because many of us in medicine struggle with the same things you are, Kaitlyn. We're people just like everybody else. And I think what we, especially we see a colleague who may be struggling with something, maybe struggling with
Mhm.
burnout, but we're not really sure what to say to kind of reach out. So maybe you could offer your perspective. I mean, specific for
Yeah,
you. I know you can't generalize it for everybody, but specific for
yeah,
you, what is something that someone can say to somebody who's struggling that they would need to hear?
yeah, for sure. So with Scott, he just like grabbed my arm gently and was like, Kaitlyn, you're not okay.
Mhm.
And, you know, basically, he's like, what's going on and how can I help you?
Yeah.
That's one thing that, you know, I'm very fortunate is to have a husband that's cued into my different feelings and stuff because they move like crazy, especially when I'm not on the medication and stuff like that. I've learned to live with borderline personality. But, you know, there's still things that, you know, he's cued into because he did a lot of homework and research, you know, on the illness and stuff like that. And the thing is that, you know, just having that person be like, hey, I know you're not okay and I'm here for you. is what broke down my wall. Like I literally just broke down and cried, and I told him everything. So sometimes that's all someone needs, is to be seen, because, you know, a lot of times we're at that point because we feel like we're alone. We feel like we're the only one going through it. So, you know, if someone just takes that second and goes, hey, I see you struggling. What can I do to make that easier on you? You know,
Mhm.
that a lot of times is enough to get there. I mean, if they're not receptive and stuff, at that point, you know, make your best judgment. You know, as always, if someone's not safe, you have to do. I've had to call 911 for someone before,
Sure.
you know, because, you know, you just know that certain people aren't as receptive, and you know, you make that call out of love because you know that they're going to at least live, you know,
Yeah.
and they'll be okay.
No, no, I respect that. Thank you. Thank you so much for again being so open and honest with me. Uh, I guess as you know, and for many of us, that the road to where you are now and the road to where you were is not a straight line, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-mm.
And one thing that I'd be interested in is what are some of the things daily things that you do every day that they are your musts. They must happen so I can get to where I'm at right now. What are some of the things?
So the very like most important thing that I did was I wrote positive affirmations on my mirror.
Yeah.
Um, that like I hated myself at one point. Like I absolutely despised who I was. I would never have told anyone that, right? But I literally was laughing as I wrote affirmations to myself for the longest time because I just did not believe them. But over repetitive action of putting different affirmations, I made it a point to put two different ones each day, you
Mm,
know, and for a while it was on a post-it card because I just couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And literally in the closet, we made a sensory room and like it had, you know, like the stress balls, like bubble water, you know, the lotion, different touch things, you know, to keep me calm
yeah.
when I was first got back from the hospital because I was that bad. Um, and I would just tape the postcard to the wall of the closet.
Yeah.
And over time, I started to feel them. I started to believe them. And then that moved to the bathroom and I did dry erase marker. And I kept that going. And it got to the point that I was excited to write the affirmations to see what I loved about myself that day. And that's something I still do every day today because I know what difference it made in my mindset. So that's my biggest one. The other thing is gratitude. Listing the things I'm grateful for every morning. We do that in the G code and Apex and stuff, but that's something I've always done because when you realize you have things to be grateful for right off the gate, you're more thankful for your day. For when things go wrong, it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah. Those two are absolute musts for me too, Kaitlyn. I do them every day. It's part of my morning ritual. My Arise morning ritual. A is affirmations, and gratitude is for sure part of that. And I always kid, a lot of people who I interact with every day, as one of my patients, out of my own family, obviously my friends and family, they ask you, Harry, how are you doing today? And it's not what is it, the one that people say all the time? I always kind of giggle. Living the dream, which I always get a
Oh my
giggle about
gosh,
that.
yes.
I get a giggle out of that because I think that's an insincere comment. I think it's
Hmm.
just kind of just trying to be funny and cute. But the reality is, I tell people, I'm standing upright today, so I call that a win, and I mean that from my heart. I mean that genuinely. As I wake up in the morning and I literally put my 2 feet on the ground and I get up and I go, "Yep, today's a win. I'm up on my 2 feet, so it's a win." So I completely appreciate what you're saying there too. So one thing I've really noticed, Kaitlyn, about you, especially over the past several months, and I want you to talk about this because I'm going to switch over a little bit to social media, is over the past several months, I've noticed um, that you're putting more content out there that I think is true to you. And again, I've only known you for just virtually, actually, only virtually known you for the past several months, but I can tell you now that if I would pull up a post from you yesterday to a post that you probably had 6 months ago, it'd be a completely different Kaitlyn. And that's one thing I want to talk to you about is in regards to social media. What are some things that we can do in social media? Because I think social media is a great tool. I really do. I love it and I hate it all in the same. If you can understand that, I think it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful community, but it has a double-edged sword. Whereas some people can go on two different extremes. And I'm trying to find, and I'm still doing it every single day. And I'm glad I'm speaking with you because you are our expert in this. Is how to find that happy place, because I'm not interested in seeing what people ate this morning, but people put it out there because they feel they have to for whatever, maybe some social proof, or maybe that I'm doing something um, of consequence. So what I'm asking is, on a personal level, what do you think people should be putting on social media, number one, and number two, on a professional level? Because if you're, I think number, we've been thinking about getting a dog too lately, so I'm going to talk to you offline about that in just a sec. But on a professional level, and that one I think probably will take a little bit more time, because I think many of us are entrepreneurs, but many of us who are in medicine always kind of toe that line where I don't want to put too much, but I want to be somewhat true to what I'm feeling. So let's do the first. What are some things that somebody can put on social media on a personal level that is not too much, but something that's somewhat true to themselves as well too?
Yeah, for sure. So I get what you mean, because like there's people I literally see post on social media. They're like, I'm in the bathroom today, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I did not need to know that, TMI.
Right.
Or they put like, pictures of their wound they got really deep, that's, and okay, fine, like, if you're a doctor, that's fine, like sharing something that happened. But like for people, they're just like trying to get attention. That's not really, the point. For
Yeah.
me, the way I determine what I'm going to post on social media is I base it on my core values. So what I do is I look at, so my core values are rare. So that is raw authenticity at all times, integrity. So, okay, is this post going to be authentic to my message, authentic to who I am? And then always get back up. So is it going to have, a problem solving part to it, because, people also want real. They don't want like the perfect, oh, this is happy go lucky life, right? Like I'll put a post saying, sometimes about something that happened with the dog. Like, the dog went and ran into the water and I had to give her a bath. But I realized, that's like this situation in business, right? I relate it back to business. And then respect. So I want to make sure that I'm not talking trash about anyone. I want to make sure that I'm uplifting people. And I'm respecting myself. I'm not talking crap about me either.
Yeah.
And then everyone benefits. So the post is going to benefit me. And then it's also going to benefit my audience that I'm addressing. So they're going to get something and be able to implement it right away. They're going to, look at that and go, hey, that made my day, right?
Yeah.
Or, wow, that's really profound. I struggle with this too. But at the same time, I'm not giving away the whole, everything and every time. And then I post once to twice a day on social media. You don't need to go crazy. For a while, I did used to post like 5-6 times, and it was crazy. But I realized that by doing once to twice a day, and I'm doing more profound messages and more relatable messages, that has been a lot better received.
Yeah.
So that would be what I do for either personal or business. With business, I do every 5th post is like an offer. I have a group and I don't pitch at all in that group. I don't, because what I'm offering in that group pitches for itself.
Right.
So, by adding value and continuing to give in that group, I have, had more clients come to me from that group going, wow, you really give a lot without us paying. So that means your real service is like going to be super valuable, right?
Mhm.
They get excited about that because they know, I'm willing to pay to have speakers come into that group. I'm willing to, post on a different social media topic and things like that. So I would say for anything, it's give the value always and make sure it aligns to your personal core values.
Yeah, I think that's so incredibly important. You mentioned it several times, is you have to give the value. If you're typing on a platform and you're wondering, if you yourself are wondering, what's the purpose of this post? The chances is great that that post does not need to be put out there. If you're
Mhm.
putting something out there that has, maybe helped you and that will help other people as well, that's a winning post. And if
Mhm.
you're, if you're an entrepreneur, I think you nailed it too. Put out enough value and the people will come to you. Dave Ramsey, I'm not sure, if you know Dave Ramsey, is one of the third most listened to podcasts. He does personal finance. And he says it commonly where it says, you put out enough value, the money will take care of itself. And I tend to espouse that as well too. From a professional standpoint, though, Kaitlyn, do you feel for somebody who's starting out, and we'll talk about that for just a second, for somebody who's starting out, do you feel that they should be on multiple platforms or should they stick on a platform and really hone in on that one?
I think multiple platforms is the best way to go personally, especially video. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts are the way to go. Just because that's where the growth is happening. TikTok right now is the most used platform. It's more popular than Facebook or Instagram. It has more viewers there than any platform. And the thing with that is that, I dove into all of them right away. And I get told all the time that I see you everywhere. You're
Mhm.
omnipresent, and I have this, known factor, right? Like there's people, I'll be walking around here and like, I don't know a lot of people where I live, which is funny, but they'll be like, oh, I saw your TikTok. And, then they'll ask questions like, how did you do this? Right.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely important to be on more than one platform because your ideal client is not just going to be all on Facebook. They're not going to just be on Instagram. You might be missing someone that really needs what you have. And, in being a servant more than, what can I get, but what can I give?
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost our duty to be there.
Yeah. I think you've hit it right on with the video. I get what would you say to a person who's maybe starting on social, maybe a business platform? Because I know many people are on social who are especially listening to this. For somebody who wants to maybe start a business or even just to kind of put out educational content out there, who who maybe is a little bit more skittish of the camera, what would you say to them? I can tell you as physicians, as a physician, we are socially awkward sometimes. I can tell you that on a personal level, that we are introvert many times by nature, because we spend many untold amount of times behind a book. So what would you tell maybe that professional who's maybe a little bit more of an introvert, but yet has a message, has a story to share? What would you recommend to them to help them, maybe start with video?
So, funny story, believe it or not, I was an introvert, which you're
Yeah,
going to find hilarious
I
because,
find that incredibly hilarious.
yeah,
I've known you for months now, and I find that incredibly hilarious.
yeah. When
Yeah.
I first started going live, I was terrified. I was terrified. So, what I did is I committed to going live on Facebook 100 days in a row.
Mm,
And just even if it was 30 seconds, I made that effort. I would say no matter how awkward you think it's going to be, make that effort to go live, do a tech talk once a day. And you're going to say a lot at first. Like I used to say every single word, it felt like every other word. And that's okay because that's how you get better, right? Um, it really does come down to consistency to get better. And like I said, now it's easy for me, but at first definitely wasn't. Like I was terrified of going on camera. I was terrified of, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I not, what they want? What if they kick me out of this group? What if they do this, And so definitely just do it.
yeah.
And no matter how terrible you may think it is, because you won't get better unless you keep doing it.
Yeah. 100% correct. I think one of the things, one of our favorite sayings in our households is, you do it scared and you do it anyway. You do it scared and you do it anyway. a great example was this morning. And an incredible example is you do it anyway. Is my little girl? She's got a band concert this evening, and it's with multiple schools. So she had to be driven to another school this morning. I had to drive her there this morning to go to this other school that she's never been to, so they can practice together as one big orchestra. And then why that's important, because when I did this last time, this was 2 months ago when there was a previous band rehearsal, was I dropped her off on one door, but she was released from another door, and my girl is 11. So this caused quite a bit of angst to a young 12-year-old, 11-year-old girl who thought her dad had just left her at a foreign school. So she's been thinking about this all day since last night. Daddy, I don't want to go. Daddy, I don't want to go. And this morning I can see that it was really bothering her. So I go to her, Elena, our motto here, you do it scared and you do it anyway. And I think is something that I always try to tell people as well, even if they're medical students, nursing students, is you do it scared and you do it anyway. And I think that translates to social media as well too. I think you're not gonna be great your first time, but nobody ever is. You can use it. You could use it for anything in life. As a father, I've been a father for 11 years, and I'm telling you, I'm a better father today than I was 11 years ago, and I'm going to be a better father 11 years from now than I am today. I just know that that's how it is, but I do it anyway, right? Not out of obligation. Well, I guess it is, but because my MO is I want to get better every single day, and that kind of translates for social media as well. But I could tell you, Kaitlyn, I know we're running short on time. Is one thing is many of us are so busy. Many of us are so busy to put in that time for social media. And I think that's why, folks like you who have social media expertise that we can really lean on. So tell us a little bit about how we can leverage your expertise to help, somebody who really wants to promote stuff on social media, who has a story to share, who wants to get out there, but really just doesn't feel that number one, they don't know how, or B, they don't want to, and C, just don't know what to put out there. Tell us how we can get in contact with you.
Yeah, so what I do, I offer a really unique program because I saw this need with entrepreneurs especially, is I do a done for you kind of TikTok where you just record the video. I give you like what to record it on, and then I edit it and post it, once a day. And then I manage your social media based on what we've learned in Apex with, you come up with the Dream 25, I interact with them for you. I do a lot of research on my clients. I don't just, go in and post whatever. I get a feel for what their style is, what their way of, posting is, what their values are, because I want to align with them. And I basically implement that and post twice a day on their personal, once a day on their page. And that way they don't have to stress about getting that content out for them. And, I basically, will put in for first few weeks to a month till I get to really know them. If I'm not sure about something, I'll have them approve the content in a folder, basically look it over. And then, I basically take it from there and just post it to multiple platforms. I, do all the research on which hashtags to use, which trending sounds, what captions to use. So that way they get the most reach and they can focus on the more important things in business, right? Because that's such a common theme I hear is I don't have the time. I don't have the time. Yeah. Or, I just don't know how to get the most reach, or, so-and-so has so much on their plate and I just can't get them to do this too, with the right content. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that has helped a lot of people.
Yeah. And I can't, again, stress that enough, is I think many times, especially people who are just starting out in the world of social media, especially on a professional level, that there's this excitement that you want to learn the platforms. And there's an excitement. You should absolutely know your platform that you're posting on. But then you sometimes go down a rabbit hole, and then you've spent hours learning about the platform, but you've not put out one piece of content. And so I think it's so important to you as the person, you as the brand, you as the person who wants to share that story, because that story needs to be heard. I think that's really important to understand too, is your focus should be on content creation, and then really just offload some of that other stuff to people who are experts in this. Again, we keep going back to the world of healthcare, but I'm an emergency physician. I'm not going to do colonoscopies on anybody. That's not my expertise. I'm going to send somebody to get that colonoscopy to another expert. So, we need to be comfortable with that. Is we have to be comfortable saying that I'm not an expert in this, but I'm going to give it to somebody who is an expert. And I think that's why, I'm so blessed to have you on board to be that resource for people. So Kaitlyn, I very much appreciate you spending the time, and so much so that you shared your story with us in the beginning. Where can we find you, though? Most importantly, how can we find you?
So I'm on every single platform
Yeah.
under Kaitlyn Young or Mrs. Raw and Real. Those are basically, if you look those up, I'll pop up. Also my website, socialmediadoctorllc.com. But yeah, I'm always, my messenger is always open. I'm always on social media because that's
Yeah.
my job.
Mhm.
So I respond pretty quickly.
Kaitlyn, and for our listeners too, again, the links will be in the show notes as well as on the website when the show drops. So again, make sure if you're driving or if you're running or if you're walking or doing something that you don't have a pen and paper on, fear not. It'll be in the show notes that accompanies this podcast. So again, Kaitlyn, thank you so much again, guys. It's Kaitlyn Young from Social Media Doctor. She is an expert in this field, guys. So if you're thinking about, hey, I want to expand my social media presence for somebody who's been doing this for some time and has the proof to show it, how she's growing dramatically. Please make sure you check Kaitlyn Young, Social Media Docs. Thank you, Kaitlyn. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.